I'm going to start with just a quick opening with Stephanie. For those of you guys don't know Stephanie, number one, where have you been for the last 10 years? But she is not only one of my favorite humans, but she is one of the most talented artists in our industry. She also is one of the most forward thinking and visionary. She is someone who has worked very hard at creating a bigger business for herself than simply being a makeup artist. I define that in a certain way, and I'm not saying simply being a makeup artist is not a good thing, but if you need to expand that energetically and you want that to be something more, then you should make that effort and do it. And she works so hard at a program called Around the World Beauty, and she is also a huge influence within the Latina beauty culture. She and Crecer came to me last year with an idea of doing a Latina beauty session. And we did that last year. Absolutely amazing. So thank you again, Stephanie, for helping me put that. Well, let me be honest. She didn't help me. She put it together. So thank you for putting that together for me. I'm not taking any credit there. And I want to say, you know, I have watched as you have grown your business for so long. And it is not only impressive, but it's inspirational. And I think that in a time when we are all concerned or confused about what is potentially happening next in our industry, someone like yourself, who many years ago looked and said, what else am I going to do besides do makeup? And you've created a business around it. You've created an entire universe of Around the World Beauty. And some of our TPG pros have been fortunate enough to take trips with you. You're doing some virtual stuff now, so we can talk about that a bit. But I don't want to yammer on too much before we get to you, because you're the star of the show today. I'm just stalling while people join us. So one of the things I want to ask Stephanie, and based on what we just talked about, I want to also note that Stephanie asked that we keep the chat function open today. So I am going to have the chat function. As you guys know, we generally do not, but so I would like you to kind of focus as much as you possibly can. It's nice to see our friends and chat with them, but like in any program or class, we'd like you to pay attention to the content too. We are going to not ask you to unmute for a question, but ask any question you have in the chat section. And then when we have a moment, I will ask that question on your behalf, just to keep it a little bit cleaner, okay? If I don't get to your question, you could email me later, and I will be sure to get that question answered from Stephanie, and she can shoot your note off, okay? So Stephanie, hi. You're so cute. I love you so much.
I have no makeup on right now. This is like, because I'm going to do my makeup. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to put anything on.
Don't you love that she's like, oh, sorry, look how pretty I am with no makeup?
Oh my God. So,
everyone's like, shut up. So first and foremost, thank you for being here with us and doing this program sponsored by Around the World Beauty. Tell me a little bit about what made you decide to take that path I just described. When was there a point when you said, I want to do more than just go out and do makeup clients?
Yeah. So it's really, I just first have to say hello to all of you guys. You have I'm already going to start crying, but you have no idea what my community means to me. And, you know, just having the time to share with you guys, even what we're evolving to during this time. I'm just so excited for you guys to always be in the know first. And so I'm grateful for Michael. I'm grateful for the Powder Group. I'm grateful for all of you guys sharing your afternoon with me. So I just wanted to kind of say that. But the thing about me that maybe some people know me is I've only ever, since I'm about 14 years old, I just wanted to be a makeup artist. That, if you ask any teacher, there's two things that I used to want in my life, and that was to be a makeup artist and to have a Pomeranian dog. You know, I wasn't really dreaming big at that time. I just wanted like a dog and to be a makeup artist. And the thing is, with that being said, my life unfolded in a way where it was kind of like, I just went for it. I just knew I wanted to do makeup. I wanted to transform people. I wanted to be part of this industry. And from such a young age, knowing what I wanted to do, it's kind of like I achieved a lot really fast. And Michael will tell you, like, I was sending him Christmas gifts before he even knew me, because I knew I needed to know who he was if I wanted to be someone in my industry, right? And so for me, it just came to a place, I would say about 25, 26. I was represented at that time, by 3 different agents I had gone through. I'd worked with some really big celebrities. I had done editorial. I had been on Fashion Week with Maybelline, all these shows. And I just didn't feel like it was enough for me, you know, not for the life that I was looking ahead. You know, I said, well, what can I do for the rest of my life that's going to give me like a sense of purpose beyond what I've been doing? Because I've hit my peak in what I thought my career was at the time. And so Around the World Beauty basically came to me because I said, well, if I could do beauty, which is something I love and I never want to run away from, but if I could add travel to that and do a documentary as well to bring those worlds together, and a documentary that really could move people through beauty and show the real side of our creative eyes in the world, I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I went on that journey to make that happen. But what happened to me on this crazy journey of travel was it was still about me. Even though I wanted to create a life that was great and that made sense and that involved everything I loved, it was still about me succeeding in this life. And what happens when you travel and you walk in someone else's shoes and when you see how people operate, it inspires you in a way to never think about yourself in that space ever again. It's not about you. It's about the community. It's about the world. It's about standing for something. And I don't know if you guys can see, if you see my room, it's infused with color from all these different places. And so I just became beauty obsessed with culture, travel, beauty, community, connection. And that's kind of how the journey kind of has unfolded for me. And now I can't stop. No matter what I do, I just can't stop thinking about it. It's like in my DNA.
And Stephanie, you like all of us, you came to a full stop. You had a big year planned, right? Where were you going this year with Around the World Beauty?
Yeah, we had launched another trip to Morocco, and we had people signed up for that. And we had a trip to Japan that took like at least 4 years to bring to life. And reason being it took so long is because the language barrier, all these things, it's really expensive there. So I was always trying to make it affordable for our community. But both those trips came to a pause. And Morocco is for 2021 now, but Japan's not going to happen for I don't know how long. But yeah, we had to change a lot of things this year.
So what are you doing in the interim? How are you? I saw some stuff that you were doing virtually. So what is that?
Yeah, so seeing that no one can really travel with us right now, we still wanted to have a way for our community to connect with the people that we're working with on the ground, for them to see a little insight on what we do on our tours on a virtual level. So we're hosting 2 events a month where you can come with us to Italy, to Morocco, to Costa Rica, and meet our local operators on the ground, bringing these beauty trends to life. So it's kind of like you're there with them. And I just thought it was such a great way to like not only support our counterparts in these communities around the world, but also share in beauty and have that moment to just break out of our own world for a second. So, and yeah.
And I was just going to ask, where do they find information out about that? Is it on your website, Around the World Beauty?
Yeah, if you come to our website is aroundtheworldbeautyjourneys.com. We launched a new site during COVID-19 because it was like a moment of just a lot of clarity coming through. So we launched a new site, and we're actually launching a beauty box on June 1st that's inspired by Latina beauty. So I'm excited about that, which basically is having a beauty ritual come to life in your home.
So like a Birchbox kind of a thing?
Kind of a Birchbox, but the thing is we're only focusing on the destinations that we go to because we partner with the people we work with on the ground to bring the ingredients to life. So
I'm smiling because I'm like, damn, why didn't I do that? Because you did it. That's why. Because you're kick-ass. All right. So Stephanie has a little presentation that talks about global beauty, and I'm so excited to get to this. So I'm going to jump on here. As you all know, I'm not very techy, so please forgive me while I attempt to share my screen. We're going to do this. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to do this. And that's good enough, right? Is that good?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So there's some words on that left. So if you guys are on screen on speaker view, move it to the top so that way you can see the presentation. Stephanie, go for it.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm really excited to give you guys an insight to what Around the World Beauty is, but most importantly, what global beauty is. As makeup artists, as leaders in this space, I think that mindset and how we see ourselves and how we see the world is crucial to what our purpose is and the kind of art that we create. So this presentation is an insight into my mind, into how I see things, and how I hope that it can inspire each and one of you to take on this way of looking at the world to see what can come forward. Everything in this PowerPoint is mostly my own pictures that I've either taken or I've collaborated with photographers. So even these 2 images right here are images that I collaborated with a photographer here in New York City to create. One inspired by Japan and the other one inspired by Indonesian beauty. So.
And you did the makeup on these?
I did the makeup and hair, yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, wait, let's see if I can get this.
So one thing that I want you guys to take away from meeting today with the Powder Group and with myself and with Around the World Beauty is we've all been lied to. We've been lied to for a really, really, really long time about how we see beauty, on how we define beauty, and how we create beauty. And so I want to read this to you, and this says, adornment is an irresistible human impulse. We use makeup to tell stories about who we are and who we want to become. And for us as makeup artists, we create those stories for our clients and for the people that we glam for a red carpet or for TV or for a movie. But the thing is, how can we do that when we have no idea even who we are, or even understand the beauty of our clients in full spectrum? So for me, when I speak about beauty, and this is an issue that I've had with building my business, and I know a lot of you guys can relate to this, is when you say the word beauty, people automatically assume that you're talking about surface beauty. Oh, you're a makeup artist. You want to change, you want to put lashes and cut a crease and completely change someone into a character that is seen as beauty in the mainstream. But what they don't understand a lot of the time is that beauty is a universal word for connection and for everything that is around us. So I started with what is beauty and what is the beauty inspiration? And so I wanted to say, eyes, lips, hair, and skin broadcast vital details about ourselves and our cultures. What can our beauty rituals teach us, and what can we learn from one another? So when I look into the world, yes, I'm looking for beautiful things and beautiful people, I guess, but what I'm really looking for is the idea of line work, color theory, and texture. And so when you start to operate from looking in the world into these three dimensions, you're able to really question how you've been seeing beauty. So for example, when I talk about line work, I don't talk about just seeing vertical and horizontal. In Western culture, we see very vertical. Just go straight for what you want, right? Just keep going straight. Don't look any other different way. But the reality is that the magic of creativity and the magic of art is outside of those vertical lines. It's outside of the box. So how do we look to the work that we see in a way of art? I put color on there because, of course, everything we do with color, everything we do has color. Everything is infused with color. And the thing is, with color, it's everywhere. And each one has a story to tell. You know, we'll get into the power of color later on, but I feel that with color, seeing the world in the different color hues that are globally, it just allowed me to become more creative as an artist in order to create. And the third thing that as artists, we're always focusing on is texture. How does it make feel? I wrote something today on Instagram about, I sometimes don't have the words to explain what it is that I do or what I see and how I operate because I feel so much. I'm an emotional being, like Tiffany is saying. I connect with things by touch and by the senses. And so that's what an artist is, and that's who we are as makeup artists. We connect through touch. And so I wanted to bring this because this is my inspiration when I'm looking into the world. So throughout the slideshows, I'm going to go through different palettes of what have inspired me and also an insight into what these cultures mean on a global beauty trend scale. So if we look at a place like Japan, when you hear about stereotypes and ideas of what we think Japanese and Asian culture is, a lot of people will get stuck on Japan. Asian beauty is minimalist. Asian beauty is kawaii, which is about looking cute. But that's not the business that I'm in. I'm not into the business of bringing more stereotypes forward. I'm in the business of breaking out of conditions and stereotypes. So for me, Japan, when I was there, what it brought forward was this idea of character. And the idea that it's about, they call it mina hashiri, which is unseen beauty. And the reason I call this particularly Japanese palette the art of beauty is because what I saw in the Japanese culture was that it was all about the art. If you notice the girl on the bottom where her neck is, you can see that there's a little bit of skin in between the white and her own skin. And that's because everything that they do is an embodiment of art. It's as a reminder that there is a body in this moment, but the art that they use to cover when they're becoming a geisha is just an expression of art. And when they put this on, they become art themselves. And so I love that idea of it's not about being white. It's not about wanting to be lighter. Those things are things that we know. We've heard about those things for a really long time, right? It's more about the art form and how this character comes to life. So when you can translate this into your work, you're able to do it in a way like I did, which we're going to go on to the next slide, where I take that inspiration. I don't want to go to make her skin white, as white as possible, right? Or, you know, focus on making her smaller lips because that's an idea of beauty in Japan. I just take that, and as an artist, I just gloss the idea of those thoughts, but make it my own. I understand that the line work is essential to create that character and to build that idea that she's separate than the art that she creates. The red and the white are part of the palette, right? The black, the white, the red. It's very crucial when it comes to that geisha beauty element. But I use my own perspective in honoring the traditional route, but also adding my beauty spin to it. So I add, instead of going in and drawing red, I'm using light with the photographer to create that shadow to bring that same feeling forward of a character of art. And when it comes to a place like Tanzania, and for me, this was a really incredible place where I first tuned into the lies that I had been told as a woman of color and as a woman and as someone who in my DNA does have African roots, like all of us actually. There was an idea, and I call it the root of beauty. And in Tanzania, what I walked away from was understanding that jewelry is an essential part of expression. Hair is more important among men just because of the fact that it shows that they're tribal warriors. And for this particular, we're talking about the Maasai tribe that lives in the Serengeti and in the safari camps. And they're nomadic, they're moving around at all times. So they use jewelry as an expression to add that creativity, add that color to who they are. And what I loved about it was that the skin was seamless, no makeup, no nothing, just an oil that's very popular in Tanzania named baobab oil. But the one thing that I learned from this was that until I was able to experience this in person and see these things that I had no idea existed, when I could feel the power of the stamp on I am proud to be who I am, it just really shifted how I saw beauty in general, because I was like, oh, I get it. Like, I get that I haven't even been allowed to see beauty in this way because I've been so conditioned in thinking that it looks a certain way, until I'm able to connect with these individuals and actually see that this is another expression. And if I can see beauty in this, I can see it in myself. So
Stephanie, can I jump in for a second? I just want to, I want to talk about, I hope everyone's noticing this palette you've created with the 4 circles of color. And I'm just going to go back, if I can, to the other, to this one. I think this is a really impactful thing for us to be seeing and understanding. I love these storyboards. I think they're really beautiful. I think that they're really, you can see where you take from here to go to here. You can see where you take from here, and we'll go to the next slide. But what I want to emphasize to our folks on this with us is that, you know, we all do storyboards, but how often do we decide on a color palette and actually call it out? Put Pantone color chips on there. Actually take swatches of product, or say it's going to be this tonality to the look that we're creating. I think that's a really important thing, and I love how you've done that. So I want everyone to point that out to themselves so they can see it on the other slides. So we're going to go forward.
So this was a shoot that I did that was African beauty inspired by my time in Tanzania. And you know, I actually shared this on Instagram today because I was very hesitant about sharing this when I first did it, just because I didn't have the words to explain what I had experienced and why I wanted to do this. But the more that I sat with this PowerPoint and I just put this image forward, you know, when we talk about cultural appropriation, right? You know, here I am, I'm going to Tanzania. I'm being so inspired in every single way that as soon as I get home, I want to create this, right? But the thing is, how do we make this right? How do I not just buy this jewelry, grab a model, and just decide to do this all by myself, and just to get my voice heard, for me to show what I want, right? That, you know, when it comes to cultural appropriation, when it comes to really translating these things that you're experiencing, it's about involving the whole collective to be part of this art form. And so I say that to say, you know, with this shoot primarily, I called on 3 of my friends who are from different parts of Africa. My my friend Justa, who owns a company in Tanzania, who was able to bring the clothing, who was able to bring the jewelry. And in a way, the shoot wasn't about just me sharing what inspired me, but it was a collective to learn together to bring this beauty forward. And so I say that because if you're thinking about doing shoots that maybe you're not, that you feel confident in executing, right? But it's essential to get the right people in the room to help you create that collective and bring these images forward. It's not enough to just say, this was African inspired, and there's no African energy in the space of creation. So whether the photographer is African American or the model, etc., because it's more about joining forces to make sure that the messaging is correct, because we're not just makeup artists, we're creating art for the world to see, and we have to be careful. And not only that, we have to involve everyone if we're trying to see things differently.
I just want to jump in on the cultural appropriation comment for a second too. We're living in a time, especially literally this time right now today, where there's a lot of problems going on with regard to cultural stigmatization and cultural differences in our community. And without getting political, I think we have to be very careful, and you have to be very conscious of it. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of people who say that Madonna doing a geisha for an award show is cultural appropriation. Someone looking like they're mimicking a culture is inappropriate, and that is. How do you, as an artist, Stephanie, ensure that the way that you're interpreting a culture does not come across in that way? You talked a little bit about it, but what are some of the things that you can suggest as our community looks to cultural beauty and says, how do I incorporate this into my daily work, whether it's bridal, whether it's editorial, whether it's fashion, whether it's working on a production where they need to maybe create something that has that influence to it? What are some of the things you would suggest as ways to ensure that you are not stepping over a line that is a very delicate and inappropriate line?
Yeah. That's such a great question. And the first thing that I'm going to say is the first step, and because I've done a lot of work in this to understand it, is it's not about you. I get that we want to create art. I get that we want our work to be seen, right? But during these moments where we want to have others be seen, whether it's a culture or a certain race, you want to make sure that, for me, is to involve the right people in the conversation of the creation of this art form. And I think and I would love to hear what other people think in the chat group, because I think it's important to have these conversations within our communities. But I really believe in what's worked for me, and that's all I can share, is that it's not about me creating, it's about all of us creating. So if I know that I want to do a Japanese theme shoot, right, I'm going to do the work as a creative, and not just as a makeup artist, but as the producer of a shoot, which is what we call ourselves when we're testing. A lot of the times we're getting the photographer, we're getting the stylist, we're getting the nail artist, we're getting the photographer. That is the first step to becoming aware of, I want to get the right people in the room so we do this the right way. And not only that, is I want to open up the opportunity so we're all included in this conversation. And I can't tell you that just simply asking someone like, I really want to honor, I went to your country, you know, I'm Latina. If someone says, you know, I went to Costa Rica and I fell in love with the attire and the beauty of what your culture was, like, would you be open to doing makeup? Because I want to capture this. But this is a photographer, let's say. That alone starts shifting the conversation from you wanting to create something, and now it's a collective energy pushing something forward. So it's those conscious like things and choices that we have to make as artists to like push the industry forward. Because it's not just about like, we can't know it all. And it's, even if we can know it all, it's up to us to give others opportunities to have a voice. And I take being a makeup artist very, very seriously. And I'll talk more about that later. It's like, I don't want to just be someone that's hired to just do the makeup. I want to be part of the collective of learning and creating. So that's like what I always recommend, is make sure that you're getting other people involved that have a voice to make sure it stays authentic and aligned. But I would love to open it up to anyone that wants to suggest anything.
Right. Well, let's get through. We have a lot to get through, so let's get through that. But I think that it's a great conversation to have, and we'll loop back on any conversation that's happening now once we get through.
So as you guys know, India is like my favorite place in the world. It's like my favorite place, and I love it because it's so vivid with color. Everywhere you go, there's color, and like I wrote, everything mean something, spiritual awakening and expression of honoring the sacredness and connection to life and inner beauty. And what I loved about India, and what I still continue to love about India, is that everything is always connected to a deeper meaning of a deeper meaning of sacredness. So for example, we're seeing here the color red. The reason the bride wears the color red is because it represents the rising sun. It's also seen as protection and fertility. So you'll see someone like this bride wearing this on her wedding day versus the Western world that will only wear white because we want to be clean. Again, I go back to, we are being told lies and we're still deciding to believe these things. And as creators, we have to shift these conversations with our art form and be like, that is not true. We're wearing white because we're clean and pure. Okay. Whereas in somewhere like India, they're wearing red because they want to connect to that rising sun energy, to fertility, that connection to power and protection. But India is one of my favorite places. And then I'll show you kind of what I took. So when I created this image with my photographer friend, Jason Situan, we wanted to embrace that red color with a powerful touch with the henna. The henna is all about telling a story. And this was one of my first photo shoots that I did for Around the World Beauty. And now looking back, if you guys look close at the henna, and this is just an artist critique from me to you while we're on this conversation, is I did that myself. And if I could do it all over again, I would, again, culture appropriation. It's not about me showing, I learned all of this in India. Look how beautiful this is. It's like, how do we involve these individuals in these communities and these cultures to actually be part of this art expression? Because I now would do this completely different. I would have hired the many artists that I know now, like Izia, who's in the community who does henna, to be part of something like this, or someone that I've met on my travels that could come and create the right kind of art. So like, this is such a great example because this is just me assuming that henna is just this, but it's not. You know, it's getting the right people to be part of a shoot. And so I love this picture regardless, but it also reminds me of how far we've come when it comes to, it's not just about me creating art, it's about really getting these individuals to come be part of this as a whole.
I agree. I think that's a great, and you're right. Etsia does do, she messaged me, she had to go to an appointment and couldn't make it to join us today. So I'm going to make sure she gets a rewatch link. But you're right. I think including someone who understands all the elements that make something very special. And maybe the general viewer, myself, would say, wow, that's beautiful henna. But someone who understands henna would say, you would never do henna that way.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure, like, you would never overlap a line in that direction. You would never do this. So I think if you want to, you use cultures appropriately and not misappropriately, then I think you're right. Finding someone to be involved who does have that. It's a great suggestion.
And then we go on to the Latina palette, which is my own culture, my own safe haven, you know, and I call it the beauty of color. And I wrote, turn to Mother Nature, Pachamama for source and inspiration. The blue represents water while the yellow represents the sun. And I remember, and till this day, when I go back to Central and South America, which are just, for me, amazing odes to just everything. Like, I'm just obsessed with everything that's there. And the first thing that I always noted is the color, right? And I can't wait to tell you what's next, because it just always like gets me in a deeper level. It's kind of like what I love about the color of the Latina palette, of the Latin palette is, and this is a little history lesson. I know you guys didn't sign up for a history lesson, but as artists, we always need to know this stuff in order to be inspired and retune our senses and re-inspire our work. So when I decided to go to Central and South America, it was very much because I did not identify with what I saw as Latina beauty. I was being told to play a role within our industry as a makeup artist, to step into my Latina-ness in order to work with the magazines that were coming out, to be a representative for certain brands. And I was also a marketing student. So I knew that in order to thrive as in anything, you need a story to tell. And my story, without even knowing, which is fascinating, was that I was Latina. And that was the story that was told to me, because I just live my life with my family, doing what I do, eating the food that I do, dancing to the music that I dance to, but I did not know that that would define me and limit me as an artist and what I could do, right? Because I'm Latina, I only know how to do this kind of stuff. I can't get into the general market, which is the market that we see like allure, glamour, cosmopolitan. And at that time, it wasn't as diverse as what it is today. So for me, I had no idea that I was going to enter makeup artistry, this career and industry I've always wanted to be in, and have to play a role of being the Latina makeup artist. And I also felt inauthentic because, yes, I grew up 100% Latina, doing the things that we do, but I also grew up with Italians and Caucasians, mostly in Long Island, New York, you know? And that was very much true for me. So when I decided to go back to my country to understand our ingredients, what beauty looks like, what beauty means there, that's where I literally was like, OMG, everything that is in our culture has to do with the connection to Mother Earth. And then the more that I started searching deeper, and again, like we say the word beauty, but beauty is all of this. Beauty is spirituality, beauty is connection, beauty is people, beauty is energy. And so what I ended up finding was that, let's talk about Colombia for a second. And I know we have some Colombianos in the conversation. Shout out to Brenda. Let's talk about Colombia for a second. Colombia was known as the land of the gold. And the reason was because when the colonizers came over, they decided to get all the gold from all of South America and bring it to Colombia, right? And then Colombia would be where they take their boats and take it back to wherever they were coming, Italy, Europe, etc. But what ended up happening was that after all the gold was taken from my ancestors in South America, what ended up happening was that these buildings that were left over looked very European. They looked modern, kind of like Spain a little bit. But what we decided to do as a culture was to paint all of these buildings colors. Red to represent the sun, blue to represent the water, yellow to represent the sun. And so when you go there, you realize that all these cities, especially, I love to say Cartagena, if you haven't been there, it's definitely a place to go to, is painted in all these vibrant colors because it represents that we came through it. We survived, and we're going to add this color to bring life into who we are. And so that's why I consider Central and South America beauty of color. And whenever I am asked to do anything with Latin America inspiration or do a campaign that's beauty inspired with like Latin roots, there's always a sense of color that has to be part of it. And so when I did this shoot, I wanted to do very, again, like breaking out conditions, right? You instantly see a Caucasian girl with blue eyes and it's like, well, this is Latina beauty inspired, right? Like, what is this? But that's the thing is, if we can, as artists can push the envelope on how we work, everything else will fall into its place. If we can, as artists, choose models for our portfolios that are breaking the molds of what traditional beauty looks like, we are now at the forefront of creating what the future looks like as trends. But what I loved about this picture was, yes, she's Caucasian, but you know what? My cousins look like this. Many Latinas look like this because the thing about Latin America, South America, and Central America is that we are a true blend of different cultures as well. We were colonized by so many people. And a lot of people think that we all look like the girl in the previous slide who's absolutely beautiful. And now I know to be so proud to even look like that. But we all are very blended, especially if you're from different parts of Central and South America and even the Caribbean, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. So there are many girls that also look like this. So it's like, as artists, we need to push this envelope to let people know, like, we all don't look alike. We all look very different. And as you're creating your work, you can be inspired by this awareness, because it first starts with awareness in order to create the work that can transform our industries. And then I talk about the beauty of culture with Morocco. And this is the look that I'm doing today for our makeup. And this is, because I haven't yet done a photo shoot inspired by Morocco. So I was like, let me do my makeup inspired by the color of indigo, inspired by the Arabic Middle Eastern expression of the beauties behind the eyes. And I wrote, there's something very inspiring about a color with history and a story. Out of all those colors, indigo is perhaps one of the most poetic. Indigo changed the silk, like the silk route. It changed the whole Middle Eastern conversation of what color was. This one color that was sourced just in Morocco, people would die for, because queens were requesting this colorful, powerful blue that didn't exist from the lands that they were from. So again, knowing the history of color to me is like what turns me on, because it's not just a blue. And if a producer comes to you and he goes, you know, just put any blue on, and you're like, wait a minute, do you want indigo blue? Do you want the sky blue that's very representative, like Costa Rican water? Or, you know, it's just like, have creativity and fun with what you do, you know, so. And then I end, before I do my makeup, with this. I wanted to be a makeup artist, and I love being a makeup artist, and I'm scared to death, to be honest, with what our industry is going to look like after this, because I'm in it to touch, I'm in it to create, I'm in it to connect. But what I ended up finding along my journey, I wrote Beauty is the Way, is that there's a difference between being a makeup artist who shows up to do makeup, and then we evolve into being a beauty expert, someone who is called upon to talk about what's hot, what beauty trends are happening, what are you seeing that you're seeing in your industry, right? And then somehow, which is where I'm not going to call myself this, but I've heard other people, and this is my community, so I can be unshamefully like proud, is that then we become trend leaders. With the awareness that we build through seeing our careers as like something more than just applying makeup, we can then be the go-to consultants for brands when they're saying, hey, we want to tap into your market. Hey, we want to know what's next. They're coming to us to find out those specific needs in order for them to thrive. And I wrote a question that says, how different would a commercial be in 2025 in regards to makeup? What has changed in those 25 years? And as makeup artists, we need to be thinking about that. How will makeup change in 25 years? How will we be able to tell our clients how to be ahead of this curve when we go back? And so I love that question, because that made me think in a way where I'm like, I'm in this long term, and I want to make sure that I can not just get hired to do a job and put makeup, but I can be part of the collective to create what's next. And yeah, that's it.
Amazing. Okay.
I get so serious. I'm so like about it.
I love, first of all, you're such an inspiration. And if we ended the session now, I think everybody would be like, that was the best session ever. But you're going to do makeup too, which is amazing. So let me see if I can do this right. I did it. I stopped share. Okay, cool. Awesome.
Amazing.
So let me see, make sure I'm not messing anything up. You guys can't see my screen anymore, right? There's nothing naughty on it. Don't worry. All right, cool. Okay, good. So give it back to you, Stephanie. And I'm going to suggest again, Stephanie's, we're going to try to pin her picture to the thing, but I'm afraid to mess it up. So just put it on speaker view, you guys, so you can really get a good look at Stephanie as she's doing her work.
Okay, so I'm just going to do one thing before I get started. And this is what I do when I work. So, okay, so welcome. Okay, so I feel like now I'm on a new show. I'm like, welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Now we're going to do my makeup, and I'm so excited to show you this. So what I wanted to do, as I said, is a Moroccan-inspired beauty look that's very Middle Eastern Arabic. There's a whole idea that there's always beauty behind the eyes, that the soul is in the eyes. And so in Arabic culture, it's all about bringing that focal energy into that space. And when I was in Morocco last time, we actually went to a fashion show. And I'm going to tell you a quick story. It's 2:40. Okay. This is going to be the funniest story, and I have to tell you. So we were invited with the Moroccan Tourism Board to go to Morocco. So there I am, and there comes a night, and it's just me and my friend who we work together a lot. And they're like, we're going to bring you to a fashion show as our guest, the Moroccan Tourism Board, to a show. We're like, great. We get to the show, and we had no idea we were going to be VIP. We were basically Western stars of New York City, and they're doing our makeup. They're putting us front row of the fashion show. I'm like, who do these people think we are? Like, we're just like normal. Like, I don't know. But there we are. They put us in clothing. They did our makeup, and I was so fascinated by the way they did my eye makeup that's what I'm going to kind of show you, because it was so beautiful. It was like the super deep black. So I'm going to get started, and then I'll just do this. And then feel free if you guys have any questions. I'm also going to be doing my makeup in a way where you guys can see how I do makeup on my clients. Okay. I'm going to take off my glasses. Yeah, that's probably what happened. Okay, so the first thing so before I get started, I put a Korean face mask on. I can't tell you how much those face masks make the skin feel before you put makeup on. It is such a game changer. So I did a face mask for about 20 minutes on my skin just to get the best quality of my skin. And if someone's paying you $500 or $250, I have no idea what this is going to look like after COVID, but all those little things really help your client to feel like they're part of something different, and it's like elevating your artistry. So I'm just going to say that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a serum. I love using serums. This is argan oil. And I like to rub my hands together. If you guys have seen me do makeup before, my clients, this is something that I picked up in Japan. It's all about warming the hands and then pressing the oil into the skin, because that helps all the pores open and allow all that good stuff, that clean beauty stuff, come into your pores. And I love doing this on my clients. And the other thing is, I always tell my clients at whom I'm doing makeup on that these are called temples, and this is our third eye. And by massaging your temples, it unlocks all of the mystery in your third eye. So basically, like the temples, by massaging, you just unlock all the wisdom that lives in the center. But like, you know, I love to tell them little facts like that. I love to work this. I know a lot of people are into those stone things, but I like to just work this into my skin, into their skin. I like to do tapping motions to get the blood circulating. So before I use any color correctors, I can just go ahead and just get the skin flowing. I'm a true believer that the skin is always alive. And so if you can do a face massage on yourself or on your clients before you do your makeup, and do this for about like 5 minutes, it's such a game changer for them. And the skin is like happy. It's like, yes, yes, do whatever you need to do. Okay, so I have the argan oil on my skin. I'm just gonna do what I do, Michael. I hope that you're okay with this. So I'm gonna spray my rose water, because again, being a makeup artist for me is not just about putting makeup on. I'm creating a space. They're hiring me for this experience, you know? So I'm putting my rose water. This is our Around the World Beauty rose water.
Stephanie, I just want to jump in. I want to talk about the application you did with your hands, right? One of the things I've been talking to a lot of folks about is, you know, how are we able to touch our clients in this way, even let's say over the next 6 months, the next 9 months. And one of the things that I had a conversation about this morning was, you know, teaching your client that ability to do it to themselves with that product. So you give them the product, they apply it in their hands, and then you show them on yourself what to do, and they do it on themselves. Becomes very intimate and gives them an opportunity to have that process that they can then repeat for themselves as a service at home. So that might be an interesting thing for some of our folks to think about, because it is a big concern. How do we, you know, any of us who've watched Mateen work, and I know Stephanie has in our sessions, he is touching and massaging, and how do you allow yourself to provide that service level? So I do think that's sort of interesting. You might be able to think about, you guys might think about, how can I show my client how to do it themselves? Is that me? Oh, Stephanie's getting a phone call to tell her how good she is, because she's the only one unmuted. All right, I'm going to mute myself again. But I just wanted to say, I think that's a kind of a neat idea.
So I'm just going to continue. So just watch. Okay, so I followed on with the Scandinavia Oil Control. I am obsessed with this product, one, because I love Debbie. I think she's on this call. And no, this is not sponsored for me to use, but I'm obsessed with this because this gives me the confidence that my makeup and my client's makeup is going to last all day. It controls the oil, especially as Latinas. We have a lot of oil on our skin a lot of the time. So I'll use this when someone has a little bit of an oily skin, just so I'm not worried that their makeup is going to break later on in the day. So this is definitely my go-to. So I sprayed some of this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go directly onto my eyes. So I have a little bit of tape. Here it is. So what I like to do, when I started makeup, Pamela Anderson's makeup artist, Alexis Vocal, do you guys remember her? She used to make a tape for the eyes. And so I'm just going to go in. I'm going to put a little bit of tape right here, because the Arabic eye is all about lifting. So I'm just going to do this. So the last product that I spoke about was the Scandinavia Makeup Primer Spray, and it helps makeup last about 16 hours, and it works like a primer. So I used it on top of this serum because now I'm gonna do makeup on top of it because I know it's gonna create like a safe layer so it's not gonna break up the makeup. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start with my lid. This is so fun, by the way. I never feel like I do my makeup anymore. So like, thank you guys for, for pushing me to do this. So I'm going to use the Maybelline Colorstay. This thing is like tattoo stuff and it's in gold. So I want, what I learned about the Arabic eye, I think in the Western culture, we tend to do smoky all the way in. I like to do it that way too, because I'm used to doing it. But with the Arabic eye, it's all about having that flow of like light to dark and really lifting this area with darkness, okay? So I'm just gonna go in, it's 248, okay. I hope you guys can see, yeah. So I'm going in and just going over with the gold. The one thing that I'm all about when I do makeup is making sure that we layer. And I'm not the cleanest makeup artist. I mean, I shouldn't say that. More of like, I just go with the flow of stuff. I'm not like this step first, this step second, this step third. I'm very much about just getting in there and just putting color down in order to start building layers, okay? So I'm just gonna go in and start putting this layer down, which is that gold. I wanted to use gold just because I feel in all the jewelry that gold is like everywhere. So you guys can see doing that first.
Stephanie, while you're doing that, a couple of people had asked about some favorite masks. I know you mentioned one, but what are a couple other masks that you like to use?
So I love, for me, Soko Glam, whatever mask that they're selling at sokoglam.com, whatever they have on their site to me is like the best. It's the best of the best in Korean beauty. I'm not so particular when it comes to like what ingredients inside of it, whether it's like snail mucus or just like aloe. Like it really is just about having all that moisture on the skin to hydrate the skin before I do makeup. So I'm not so attached to the ingredients, to be honest, for makeup artists. Sometimes I feel like it all does the same exact thing. That's why I'm never so, I mean, you'll see me use some Tom Ford and some Maybelline and some MAC and then some, like I really have a mix of products. I'm never attached to the product so much. I'm always attached to the element of doing it, you know? So I'm the same thing with the face mask. I'm like,
Can you tell us that website again? How do you spell it?
it's Soko, S-O-K-O, Glam, G-L-A-M.
S-O-K-O.
Glam.
Glam.
Yeah. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab my Urban Decay palette. Urban Decay palette. And I'm gonna go in just with the black. And I'm gonna start to create the V that's gonna be outside the eye. So I'm gonna go in and just throw that in there. You can see how black that is. I like to create that V form. I don't know if you guys can see. So I like to just go in there and create that V on my clients instantly. And I have the tape, so that's stopping it from getting down there, and then I can just like clean that up when I lift. The other thing that I like is my eye, the more mature that I get, it's getting a little hooded. And so what I like to do is I like to take my brush and I go on top of my crease to build that shadow in there. See that? The other thing is that I learned really well is that, so wherever you take, so I just like dip my brush into the black, and wherever I'm gonna put it first, boom, that's where the hardest color is gonna be. So you don't wanna necessarily ever dip your brush and then go directly into the center of the crease. You wanna dip your brush and put it right here at the corner first, because that's where your darkest point is gonna be. It's just like painting, wherever you put your brush first is where the big spot's gonna be. So you wanna make sure you do that always here at the corner and then work your way up, blending it up. I'm going to go in, this is a Tom Ford eyeshadow, and it's very yellow. And I'm gonna go in and blend into that crease a little bit. Because one thing that I notice is you do not have to be shy with the makeup. And there's always different layers to a smoky eye, but you can go in and just have fun with it. The whole idea is to blend, and I know you guys know about blending, but I'm just blending that. Just get that. I'm going with a little bit of a non-bright, doesn't have too much glitter, it's more of a matte yellow from Tom Ford, and I'm just gonna go ahead and also bring that into that space. And so I used the Colorstay Maybelline because I wanted it to just be like that holding layer. It has a little bit of a texture to it, so when you put shadow on top, it like definitely like magnifies the color a little bit. So that's what I like to use the Maybelline Colorstays, or even like the MAC pigments are really good too. So I'm just gonna go back with my palette, and now I'm just gonna bring in a color like this. That's like a deep brown, because it's gonna be the one I'm just gonna put in the center here.
Stephanie, I think this might be out of the blue as a question for you, but we keep speaking to color, right? And you create beautiful palettes that are culturally representative and really represent sort of an ideology behind beauty within a culture. There are also colors that, as you mentioned, that don't work for a culture, that are like taboo for a culture. I know in Japan, white for weddings is bad luck. Like, so what are there any resources? And I'm throwing it at you right now. So the answer might be no, I don't know of any. So no worries. But are there any resources that you know of where someone could really understand the impact of, or the relevance of, or the meaning of colors in different cultures? Like one place. Google, yes, I know, but is there any reference that you've used before?
I would say, for me, I know that the museum is a place that I'll always go to reference like what's happening, or when I'm looking for inspiration on what exactly I'm going to do, I'll go to the museum. But an online resource, not so much. You'll have companies that are forecasting companies. There's like fashionsnoops.com, there's beautymatter.com. These are sites that are insider websites that give corporate beauty leaders information on what colors are going to be popular in 2021, 2022. And they also work where they can sell you basically like a database of information on cultural references, so you can better know about what's happened then and what's going to happen now. So there are those resources that I go to, but they're considered like trend forecasting companies. So you see, I'm just kind of building and building as I'm going. I kind of want to use blue. I wasn't planning on using blue, but let's see. Actually, I was planning on using blue, that's why. But I'm just going to go in with this blue and just I just want to dab it kind of like on the outside for a second. This is hard. And again, I'm like working in the layer form of it. I kept going back and forth. I was like, I don't know if I should do a whole blue smoky eye, or if I should do a smoky eye with gold. I was like so overwhelmed thinking of what you guys should see my makeup station. It's like covered in color, but I was like, let me keep it simple before I overwhelm myself. And then of course here I am with blue and gold and black shadow. I love it. I love it. Okay. So I'm just going in and just So I want it to be yellow going into the blue and going into the black. I know one thing that helped me when I was starting as an artist, and it still helps me, is to see how other people do stuff, because it lets me know like I'm not alone on how I do makeup. And it's just helpful because it gives you confidence on how you deliver, because makeup is definitely like an art form. It's an expression. You might get inspired midway and be like, I want to put glitter, I want to put a blue on. And so that's okay. There's no right or wrong way on how to do it. We're each different artists. And so
You may have said it, but somebody asked what the blue was. What's the blue you're putting on?
oh yeah, this one is Urban Decay in Chaos, but it's, you see, it's super bright. I love it. And I'm just going in, and again, I'm just layering on top of the color to get the truth. So now I'm just using kind of like a fluffy brush, and I'm just gonna clean up this stuff, lifting it a little bit, blending the black a little bit more into this blue. What I love about the tape, it just helps to create that like drastic line, so there's no way of messing up. You can just like, I'm going to take, I'm using the Color Studio from Maybelline. This is in black. I believe it's called Risk Maker, but it's very black, as you can see. And I'm just gonna go in with this, put the color in there, and I'm just gonna go again, like I'm always about focusing on elongating my eye towards my ears, not so much focusing on making the shape round. I wanna elongate it, so I'm just gonna go in here. Really create that dramatic crease. And then just to finish the blending, I'm gonna go in with it's gonna go in a little bit with the jet. Once again, that's the black. I'm just taking a tad little bit. I'm gonna brush that off, and I'm just gonna finish this whole area by blending it together. No, I'm sure you guys can see. Yeah, that's it. It's fun to do your own makeup. I haven't done this in so long. I still need to do the drag challenge. I'm so upset. You would like I need to do it. Like no excuse.
I'm just gonna say you might. It's due today,
No,
so
it's the only day. I might turn this
you
whole
might want to just take this. Once we're done with you, you can take it and turn it into drag.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, so I'm just gonna keep blending. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going in with the Milk Cosmetics. This is like a super creamy formula. If you guys don't have this in your kit, I highly suggest it. Just watch. It's like creamy. And then where I put the blue, I just wanna go in and just put a tad bit on more, because that's gonna give me a little bit more of a texture. And it's gonna brighten that brew up a little bit too. So you can see. I'm just going in and just throwing that in there, creating a little bit more of a texture. Now I'm going in with a black eyeliner. And now I'm going to line the waterline and the bottom line, guide. So I'm going to show you a little trick with the bottom line. So most of us will do makeup where we go back and forth like this, back and forth, back and forth. But a little trick that I learned is you want to take the liner and you want to just literally take it section by section. So section by section.
Stephanie, from the standpoint of technique, have there been, and you're talking a little bit about it and as you're going through, but have there been any techniques, you know, for aligning of the eye, whether it's kajal or something else that you were kind of blown away by, that you've incorporated into your beauty work a lot more than you might have thought you would have, that you learned while you were studying abroad with regard to beauty?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, you know, the ones that I always talk about is the one with the skincare, with the tapping and the making sure that the skin is like, you know, super hydrated and like with the hands and all that stuff. Even with the liner trick, like not just going back and forth, but really making sure that you get that pigment in there by going step by step and like each like one, like focusing on one section then going on to the next. Like these little things are things that I've incorporated into my makeup because I feel like they work. Like you can see how like that looks a lot more intense than just a regular eyeliner that you would just draw on. Like it really like impacts that thing. And then I'll take this and I'll go inside the inner rim. And again, most of us, and how I was taught, like when I was learning how to do makeup, I would just go in there and just line it. But what they kind of taught me was you want to go section by section to really get that deep black in there. You can see that. And I'm just going to take this and go onto so it's getting there. It's definitely like a layering effect. Because the thing is, you're gonna be dancing, you're gonna be rolling around, and you want this makeup to last. So it's like, I'm like really gonna intensify. I'm even gonna take the liner and bring it a little bit lower than what I would normally do liner on myself. Because it's like, I want this to be the first thing that my future husband sees when I walk into the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's all about the eyes. So yeah, you can see like already, it's like, whoa, I love. Like this changes my character. This changes like your being as you start transforming into like a Arabic goddess or like a beautiful smoke. Obviously, I'm having a moment. So I'm just going in there now, and I'm just really working this into my liner. I'm gonna lift a little bit and get into my waterline. I like to take actually. I'll use this one. I like to take either the black that I use for here, that's creamy, or I'll take the liner. This one's Gucci called Midnight Blue. It's really pretty, but it's like kind of black, but has a blue. And I'll take my liner and let's do this correctly because I'll take a thing and I'll put it onto my spatula. Like that. And what I like to do is that I'll take that little brush, kind of mix it, and then apply it into that waterline so I can really get the true color. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bring the same liner and just go over my lid. I like to always start at the end and bring it towards the center, and then take the brush and go from the inside of the eye to the center. It's funny, that little makeup trick, a lot of brands will pay a lot of money for you to show people that little trick. It's so common, but it just helps the everyday woman understand how to do eyeliner. And I'm going on top of the tape. Remember, I still have tape. And I'm elongating that. Yeah, it's pretty. And I'm just gonna do the same thing on this one. I'm taking the cream again, and I'm just gonna go one more time on top. I'm going into the waterline. Michael, what has people been saying about eyeliner and things in our industry? Like what do they think might change?
Um, well, again, we're trying not to give too many pieces of advice before they're sort of solidified and set. Right now, we are working on a document that we're putting together, which will be not a hard suggestion, but just some ideas about working safely going forward. And one of the things with regard to eyeliners, as we all know, we can sharpen them. That's great, but you're still going near the eye with a pencil, which has been in your hand, or things like that. So it's about cleanliness. It's about potentially taking the liner off the pencil onto a palette. Lots of different pieces, but it's going to be a learning curve right now. And right now, the main thing is a lot of big production pieces and a lot of people who are working in that area, whether TV and film or fashion. It may end up, for the short term at least, being about full sets of product for each model, each actor, and you're never cross contaminating. You're never using a pencil on more than one person. It's one of the suggestions we're starting to make with regard to even bridal. Maybe you have to up your prices a little bit, but you're incorporating product into it, because it's better to use a pencil that you give to them and a mascara that you give to them than use it poorly if you're unable to use it sanitate in a sanitized way. So I don't want to say too much, because I think that's a hard discussion right now, but we're all working toward it between OSHA, the unions, working with Tara at CNN, understanding what they're looking at doing, and a lot of the schools. And it's a challenging time with regard to those pieces. And I'm only still talking because you're just still lining. So I'm just going to keep filling airspace for you. And, but I think that, and I know Alice is here from Makeup Forever as well, and I don't want to put her on the spot and say, what are you guys doing, Alice? But Alice, do you have anything to add to that from a retail standpoint? So again, it's a moving target right now. So like I said, within the next week or two, we're hoping to put out some, at least a single page, a PDF or something that will very clearly denote that you should only follow your local, regional laws and rules about hygiene, and the type of industry you're in, and that type of the type of work that you have to be focusing on. But at the same time, there's going to be some really logical stuff here about how we use product. You can look at the rules that Ulta and Sephora are putting out right now, and Macy's and some of the retailers, about no testing, and you see how serious it's going to be with regard to allowing a single product, a single pencil, a single lipstick to be used on multiple people, especially when it comes to something like an eyeshadow, like you're using now, Stephanie, that can't be really effectively taken off and put on a palette. So I'm going to mute myself again.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I know that I have some friends in the industry who are creating those beauty boxes in a way, like a box that someone can order that's very like a basic little makeup kit. And yeah, it's going to cost the production company money, but I think it'll be worth it for them, because they don't have to worry about, it's going to make them have to use certain artists more consistently, which I think might be good for a lot of us, where it's like they get in-house makeup artists, which I saw a few brands doing for a while. So interesting. So I'm going in and just using the powder. Again, like you guys can see the intensity coming in. I'm going in and using the powder just to seal the liner. And again, I'm not going kind of back and forth. I'm just going in and like in each section, just placing that product. This is a great COVID-19 look while you're home, doing laundry and exercising. It's a great look. I'm just going in and again, intensifying this. So what I like to do next is I'm gonna go ahead and do my mascara. So I'm using the Better Than Sex mascara. This is like my favorite mascara. I actually will ask my clients to buy this mascara if I'm working with them consistently because it's just so good. It makes everything, like these lashes are.
Somebody had asked about false lashes. Is that a strictly American like phenomenon, or are there, or like a Western phenomenon, I should say, or are there other cultures that are obsessed with false lashes?
That's a good question. Well, it's actually interesting. Did you hear about the sales with mascara? How they're like selling no mascara in the beauty industry because of because lashes are now taking the mascara like famous situation in the Western culture. I can't say that I know, to be honest. I haven't. The last place that I went to was Morocco, and there I saw lashes very prominent, but still in more settings for parties and events, not like we see it here where every day just to go to the store women are wearing lashes. So I can't say that I've seen lashes be a thing, but I definitely think in the Western cultures where we're seeing like the boom of like lashes just to do everything. On a client, I would normally curl their lashes, but I'm then going to use just a clean little brush. I'm just going to get rid of anything that kind of fell. I have a little line there.
Got about 10 minutes or so, Steph.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, 10 minutes to do this. Woo! Okay. I'm going to go follow with, I do have a lash here that I was thinking of doing, but I'd rather actually just get on to the rest of the face. So I'm now going to just remove this tape. So you can see like that little bit of that line there. So you can see how that kind of helped. And then I am going to take my blending brush one more time. Make sure there's nothing on there. And I'm going to go in with, I'm going to go back in with this palette, and I'm just going to use a little bit of this double life situation. And I'm going to just clean up this blend a little bit. So I'm just going to go in there and just blend a little bit more. And like I said, even though I don't have lashes, you can still see that my eyes are being pulled, elongating them instead of making them look too rounded. And that's what I want to create. I'm just going to throw on a little bit of base. I'm using the Too Faced Conceal. Actually, so the way that I like to do makeup on my clients is I will actually first, I'm going to go in with my foundation first, put it on this brush. So I'm going to take the base and put it onto my brush. And what I like to do is I like to do kind of like a pounce kind of feel so I can get the makeup into the skin. Now, in certain places, you will be asked to use a little bit of a lighter skin foundation just because it's just culturally appropriate for them. I like to go just a little bit. I don't like to go too dark on my foundation because I'm going to bronze myself up. And this is the color that my neck is. So I will kind of blend that in more and then bring in the color with my bronzer. So I'm just going in, and as you can see, I'm like working the foundation into the skin. And I like to use the foundation kind of as a corrector as well in these areas. And you'll see, like, don't worry about this. I'm going to show you a little trick to get rid, to perfect, because it's all about perfecting the eye area. So I'll show you a little trick that's gonna work into that. So first thing I'm doing is going in with the foundation, concealing what I can. And then what I'll do is I'll go in, I'm gonna actually use, hold on, I just wanna buff this out a little bit. So I'm using another brush and just going in and just. All over my lips. I like to just not erase the face, but I like to just go in and, especially if I'm focusing on the eyes, just even everything out. And then I'll take my concealer. And then I'll go in with my concealer and figure out if there's areas that are peeking through that I haven't hit. So for me, I tend to get a little bit of discoloration here. So I'm just gonna throw that on there, right there. So a lot of people like do concealer first. I'm all about doing foundation first, seeing what it can kind of even out the skin tone. And then I'll go in with concealer and get any areas that it kind of missed. Okay. Then the second thing when it comes to this dramatic eye, it's all about the brows as well. So that's what's going to close this whole eye area and make it complete, okay? So to do my brows, I'm going to enhance my brows. You guys can see I don't have such a bad, let me blend that a bit, brow, but I want to really create more of a powerful brow so it goes with the eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my Senna palette. Actually, let me throw some powder. I want to just powder it because taking RCMA powder and just putting that down there. I'm taking that and just going to put it here. So it sets this little area, so I don't have to worry about anything falling in there. Any heat, any sweat coming through. Okay, and the brows are pretty quick. I'm gonna grab my Senna palette. And Senna's gonna be on next week, right? I think. I'm using my Senna palette. And I love to put down a wax first to seal the brow a little bit. And then I'm just gonna comb that brow up. This is to help that the wax is all even, and it's gonna help the color stay a little bit longer.
What brush is that, Stephanie?
This is a toothbrush. This is a toothbrush from Tara & Co. She gave.
I have the same one. That's so funny. I actually have the same one.
It's made out of bamboo.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a toothbrush and it's from Tara & Co. Who actually, the founder is a makeup artist. It's Azra. She's an incredible makeup artist and she started a tooth care line. So she would kill me. She knows that I'm using this as a brow comb. But now I'm going in with my brow stuff. I'm gonna use, normally I would go with a taupe because I don't like my brows to be so like dramatic. But for this look, I'm gonna go in with an espresso that's a little bit deeper. And what I like to do is I like to start right here at the arch of my brow because I want this to be like the darkest. So I'm gonna go in and I am going to enhance my shape. So I'm gonna go in and just darken that center. And taking the same color espresso and doing the top. There you can see that shape taking in. And don't worry guys, I'm gonna show you a few tricks to clean this up. So then I'm just going in with a little bit more and I'm just gonna do, I'm not gonna do the same technique. I'm just gonna literally just create little hairs.
You mentioned the Senna session, and Eugene is going to actually be talking about a little bit about the history of brows in the 21st, 20th century. So she'll be talking about brows from the 20s on. But I think there's also a really interesting angle to the idea of cultural brows, because in you know, they're so specific in so many cultures, whether it be, again, whether in a Japanese culture with some of the images you had shown with really thin brow for geisha, and to Morocco and Middle Eastern with very thick brows. So that's another good thing, I think, that, you know, I always try to explain, especially when I'm speaking to student groups, that understanding the how to apply makeup is great, but understanding the cultural aspects and the history of it and all the deeper parts that really you can understand through just researching, like you said, museums and libraries and all that, and Google while you're sitting at home. It's fascinating, and it makes a big difference in the final product. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it gives you more confidence. I'm just like looking, yeah, so you can see, like, I feel like where's the Latina girl? I feel like she left the room. But it's like, I feel like it helps create that character. And the more that you know about what things are seen as beautiful in these cultures, you can break the molds, but you can also enhance those as well when you're doing makeup on your clients. And like, okay, like you want to be incredibly sultry on the red carpet. Today at the Met Ball, it's all about this Arabic touch. Like, let's evolve that that history culture into the beauty look. And so you know you're gonna focus on the brows, you know you're gonna focus on certain colors. So so you can already see the character, like this power coming through my eyes. So I'm just gonna go in and just clean up the brow, shape the brow a little bit more. And since I'm doing makeup on myself, I can do that really fast on my skin. Okay, and the last thing that I'm gonna do is I am going to take a little bit of concealer. Now, they're kind of even. I have like this whole thing with my brow where one's like, they're kind of uneven, but I'm gonna go in and just clean this up. And then I like to take my little brush or my concealer brush and go in the inside of the brow a little bit. And then, yeah. And so that's just gonna cut the brow a little bit. And then I'm gonna bring in my other brush. And that's gonna help all this to look a little bit more cleaner. So I'm just gonna go in. And you see, like, I could also, where's my powder? Using my powder, I'm gonna put a little powder on my brush and then just plot that here. All this does, it helps it all to blend for me. So you can see how that looks. And I'm just using this brush to just push this concealer upwards a little bit so it blends that area in. But you can see now how that brow kind of really looks more shaped, it's like looking like it's supposed to be with this eye. Here I feel like I'm just going in and cleaning that up a little bit. Yeah. And then to finish, I'm using the Senna Brow mascara like this, and I'm just going to do a little bit of a coat on top of the brow to give it a little bit more dimension. And I feel like it marries all the product together. So you see, I feel like it instantly was looking very like drip cut out. This makes it look like it has more hair. So I'm just going in and using this brow gel with color, especially here in the inside. I think I put too much concealer, so I'm just going to go in. Yeah, that makes it look actually authentic. The last step that I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in a bronzer and bronze up my skin just a bit. So let's use this one. I'm using a MAC Dark Golden. Thanks, guys. And this is what I'm going to use to bronze up my skin. So I'm just going to go in here. I like to go just around the face, going into the scalp. But I used to work with Kathy Griffin. It was like we had to like highlight all of this so it would pull, so it would like deepen all this stuff. So it made it look like we had a smaller forehead. So I like to take that trick for myself too and just You know what? Michael, do I have enough time to put a lash on real quick? It's right here.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
as our audience knows, if they have to click off, we certainly appreciate them being with us. But you can, I mean, you could hang out as long as you want, really. Y'all are in quarantine. What else you got to do?
Well, because I just have 2 more steps, basically. So I'm just going in and just deepening this whole area in. I think when you do makeup on yourself, it's a little bit more different than the client, because it's like when you're the client, you're like, and when you're your face, you're like, but
Yeah, you're not necessarily following proper future hygiene for client work right now. I'm just letting you know.
I'm gonna need brushes for everyone. Brushes,
Exactly.
new
And
brushes
honestly,
for all.
that's the case.
New brushes for all. It's gonna be crazy. The next thing that I'm doing is I'm gonna put a pair of lashes on for you guys just to really close this look up with the bangs. So I'm just gonna grab this. We have our lashes. I'm just gonna make sure that they look good with this look. Yeah, that looks great. I'm gonna take our lash glue. I'm using this one. This is just a strip lash glue. We use this one so people who are allergic to latex don't have to worry. And I like to just put that on top of the lash. And again, this is a trick that I would normally have my clients do. I'm not 100% sure how this is going to look like when we go back, but I always have the client kind of breathe in on their lash. I will never breathe on their lash. I'll have them breathe on it. So again, I do not think that this is actually going to work anymore. But what that does, it heats up the glue, making it really tacky and making it last longer on the eye. And so that's why I normally would do that. But maybe I'll have like maybe a fan now that I can get that glue tacky. So I'm going to go ahead and just place that on top.
Steph, what glue was that you used?
This one is Lash Couture. It's with biotin and blueberry, and it's latex free. Lash Couture.
I just want to add before I just starting to do your final steps. I'm gonna make sure you have a chance to go back in and read the comments, because not only are people super impressed with the work that you're doing, but there's so many notes about your heart and how wonderful it is for you to be sharing this, and how lovely it is. So I just want you to know that we adore you as a community, and we love what you're doing, and everyone on our Zoom right now loves what you're doing with Around the World Beauty. And I really hope you guys have a chance to check out what she's doing digitally, because it's going to be really cool. And I'm going to try to check it out as much as I can. Yes. So we'll see you in Italy and all those places online. Yes. But I'm going to turn it back to you, Steph. We did have another question too. It was from Vanessa Blanchley out in the Bay Area. She had said, fusion inspiration, using models of different or same cultures. What are some other ways that you can, tell us more about how one can make it more editorial as a look and less of a replication or caricature. I'm going to throw in as an answer to that. One of the things I always suggest is, if you have to question whether it's a caricature or whether it's an interpretation, it is probably a caricature and probably not appropriate. But Stephanie, I'm going to let you answer that.
Yeah, no, so I think even right now, like with this makeup look that I'm doing, this is honestly how I experienced when I went there. They did my makeup. Like, to one point I was like, this is a lot. This is a lot of makeup that they put on me. And like, I don't even feel like myself, but I was like, I kind of love it because it makes me appreciate like these different ways that people do things. So I think with the question of like, where do you go from character to just being inspired, is kind of like using some of the elements into your work without necessarily having to copy exactly. So even with me, like, I'm going in and doing this intense eye look that I normally wouldn't do. Hold on, I'm just gonna lift this lash a little bit. But the thing about it is that I know where the source of inspiration is coming from, and I hope that answers. I don't think there's a right answer or right way of doing it. It's like if you can understand where the source of inspiration comes from, so when someone asks you, you can explain it to them. Like, I wanted to make my eyes incredibly dramatic because I wanted to resemble how the eyes are the windows of the soul in many cultures in the Middle East, and there's this focus on like having sultry eyes that have power and having the brows align with that and like be the first thing that people see. And so I think that the more that you know and you do your homework, it's a really good way on how you can translate it. So I hope that kind of answered the question. What do you, because Michael, ask me the question one more time. I'm so sorry, because I heard where it's like.
Basically, Vanessa was asking, how do you ensure when you're doing a look that is incorporating cultural references that it doesn't become a caricature of the cultural reference as opposed to an interpretation? How do you make sure it doesn't go too far to be mimicking?
Get the right people in the room to ask them. That, like, you know, at that, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And that's the thing. That's why I decided to go from doing beauty to tourism and travel, because I wanted us to experience beauty differently, and so we could become aware, so we could better communicate with it and transform it into our work. If you're the only one looking at your work and you're like, I don't know if this is correct, I'm not really sure, I did the research, get the right people in the room to ask those questions. Make them part of the art that's coming out. You know what I mean? So, so even like on this call, like I know Brenda's on this call, and I invited the girls that I work with in Morocco, and like, call me out, let me know if this is right or wrong. But makeup is fun, you know, it is an art expression, but if you have the right people in the room that can give you the right information, that gives you more confidence to create freely, you know. So I'm just going in with the powder, and this is a MAC, I think it's Studio Mineralizing Skin Finish, and I like to just go in and just clean up those little edges and go right here to just clean this whole area up a little bit.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, I like it. I'm so excited. I want to go to like CVS like this. I live in Harlem, so CVS is right across the street. But me
I
and
think
my
you should go have a socially distant walk and let it be seen, honey. It's gorgeous.
Oh my God, I should do that. That'd be so much fun. And that's the other thing. Will eye makeup become more prominent now that we will be wearing masks? Has anyone thought about that?
No, it's a great point. It's a really great point.
But
I'm going to also, while you're doing that, I'm just going to I'll wait until you're done. I want to share the screen again before we wrap. And once you do your lip, and show that Morocco slide that you had. So that way we can use that as a comparison, since that was what we're working on.
Yeah. I'm just going in and
see that inspiration.
Just now I'm just going to go in. Let's see. I feel like the blue is not as dramatic, so I'm just going to go in again with my shadow and just in a little bit. Yeah, I want it to pop.
Everyone also thinks you're really pretty on this chat. You're okay.
I'm doing like a interesting move over here. This is how I do makeup on clients. It's hysterical. Like I just get so into it, and I'm like, wait, like let's do like. No, our job is so fun. Okay, so then I'm just blending that in. I am going to just take a little bit of. I'm just going to go in and just add some of the black liner here. And this is Maybelline. I'm on the Maybelline Pro team, so I have like tens and thousands. I have a lot of their makeup because every season they give us a whole makeup kit. So it's like what I have everywhere. And it's really great stuff. So now I'm just going to go in one more time into my inner rim to darken that up. And then I'm just going to finish off with a quick lip. I just want to see, I'm nervous about using it. So I'm just going to do like a nudish lip with a little bit of a harsh lines and just going in and adding my lip. I like to add dimension by doing lip liner, and I'm not a fan, actually, if you guys ever see my work, I'm not a fan of doing the Cupid's bow, so I like to cover that Cupid's bow with lip liner. I feel like it lifts the lip a little bit more, making it look like you have a bigger lip, and I'm into that, so I can go in. I like to then go in the inner. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take my MAC lip gloss, and I'm going to be using a lip brush to just apply it. And if I was doing a shoot, I actually, knowing myself, I wouldn't have done a lash, just because I feel like when you put lashes, it becomes very, what's the word? It becomes like too commercial beauty. And I think when you're doing editorial and fashion, it makes it look a little bit, like you don't want to look commercial. You want to look like less is more, but with more, if that makes any sense. So I have a little neck piece here. Let me see. Yeah, so I went from being Latina to now being like a Middle Eastern goddess, right? So now I'm just gonna kind of put that on my neck. I have this here. This is from Morocco. This is like their blue. So I always buy jewelry. I buy jewelry. I buy clothing whenever I go to any place, because half the stuff that you can find globally, you can't find it here. So I like to just collect, so when I do a shoot, I can just pull all this stuff together. And I also do it for selfish reasons, because I'm like, oh my God, look at all these amazing things that I found.
And they were all work related, right? So,
they're write-offs. Like all of them are write-offs. So
we do not give tax advice at the Powder Group. I'm going to share that Morocco screen real quick, just so as you're doing this. So give me a minute, guys.
Yeah, I think that doesn't look too bad.
So if you can see, this is the original where Stephanie was using this as her inspiration. And you can also make Stephanie's, if you're not familiar, you can drag that bigger if you've got it on speaker view. I mean, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing
really
is,
see the influence.
Like imagine a night, like I wonder, hold on, I want to make sure I can see myself. So imagine like a sexy night. It's Moroccan inspired in New York City, an incredible party with, I'm like really making up this party because I can't wait to go to one of these parties, but it's, you know, you want to really honor. It's like everything that we do is to honor the culture. Like I love when someone asks about like, how do you make sure it doesn't become a character? But if you come from a place of honoring, you're saying, I love you. Like I love your culture. I love the color that you have there. I love the fact that you guys breathe color and art and character. So if it comes from that place, it's always going to be authentic. But you can see, even with that, I want to add a little bit something. I want to bring in here my airbrush machine real quick. Because now that I put gold on, I'm kind of like, let me just add a little bit of gold. I love, so if I wanted to make it more like fashion editorial, I would come in with, let's see, yeah, oh. I love myself a lot.
You gotta love when you love yourself.
You gotta love yourself.
It's awesome.
I'm just going in and just, with the airbrush, getting into my, even if it gets into my hair. And this is like what I love about being a makeup artist. It's like, you see that's closing the look a little bit, you know? Even bring in the airbrush and bring it into your crease a little bit more. There you go. And that's how you can like take it from being a red carpet look to now elevating it to make it more editorial. It's all about the cut, the jawline, making that really crisp too. So yeah, look at that.
Absolutely beautiful. If you end up going out for a walk in that outfit, I want you to do a live feed while you're out so we can just see everyone's reaction 6 feet away.
Yeah, and then I just have to do one thing. You're gonna kill me, Michael. But the thing is, when you're doing all these things, I mean, where's my? I had it open. Hold on. Like,
well, I'm
have fun with it. It's art. It's art. It's beautiful. We're artists. We take inspiration from the world because then we become regular. And so have fun with it. Put music on. Become weird. You know, become someone with an opinion on what you think beauty is. And just like okay, I'm gonna do the same clean makeup look, and like that's no fun. So have fun with yourself. Play music. Dress up. Travel. And just know, as long as you know what the truth is, no one can tell you anything. So you just want to honor these rituals authentically by getting the right people involved and having fun with it. So yeah, I look.
You look
COVID-19.
Baby, I would sit here all day with you. I love you so much. Thank you for being here. You are getting so much gratitude from on our chat. And we're going to download that for you later. And so you can have a look at everything. Guys, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Stephanie. Please follow Stephanie and check out the Around the World Beauty stuff that she has coming up. Would you post some of that for us on our TPC page?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm going to just play my music while everybody just logs off.
All right, guys. Thank you guys for being here.
I'm still going out like this.